Hello to everyone out there in the Matrix. I hope everybody is surviving the whatever it is that's going on in this country. I was in the process of going to try to look for work this morning, and I got stopped in my tracks because of the first thing that I saw on Indeed.com. Um, Let me just make a disclosure. I don't make any monies from this video, and I am using this source from Indeed.com under the Fair Use Act. And I have to keep my voice down because I live in a home. I'm not really calling it a home. I would call it a place where I keep my possessions. That the individuals that live in this house um, would have a different opinion about a lot of this stuff than I would. So, having said that, I do keep my voice down in this. There's someone right next door here, and I'm not sure how much they can actually hear through the wall and all. But so I started out my day today, wondering, hoping that I might be able to find a job after our forced lockdown for months, and then like in within days of the lockdown coming down, or going down, we get our cities burnt to the ground and rampaging mobs taking control of our country. And while the way I see it, both sides of the aisle, right and left, did nothing. It's self evident. All you have to do is look at what happened in the United States before the National Guard was called out. The country had already been burnt to the ground. So this is what it whoever these people are that are orchestrating this are way above these clowns on the right or the left, because you know what, while they have their armed bodyguards with them at all times, there's this ludicrous thing to defund police departments across the country. Now, is not really what this video is about, but my 2 cents on that is considering. I mean, I actually think that the police departments across the country could all be defunded, uh, based simply on the amount of things that law enforcement steals from their prisoners, and I don't know what state you are in, but besides, if you're unfortunate enough to come in contact with any of these criminals, they will steal your money, your jewelry, your fur coats, you name it. Besides that, many states now have it's something like a seizure forfeiture or something like that. The words could be transposed, I suppose. But anyways, if you're accused of something, they make up all kinds of crap anyways, because they're here's the thing about law enforcement. Their primary goal is not to protect and serve you, although they are protecting and serving some people, but it is not us, regular people. The amount of things under those particular laws, and there are other states besides the one that I'm in that has the forfeiture seizure laws where they can make up anything in a report, and it's up to you to prove your innocence, and most people can't afford that. So an end result is they steal your home, your bank account, your boats, uh, in anything. They take it all. So as far as defunding the police departments, um, across the country, I would just say that based on the amount of theft of American citizens by law enforcement, um, they would still be able to operate fully and maybe be less some vacations and power boats and second homes, which certainly they could never afford on what law enforcement officers are paid. But I'm just throwing that out there. That's not what this video is about. It is about what I came up on Indeed.com. And you know what? When I saw this banner, it is it actually stopped me from even starting to look for a job, because I had to make this video before this is removed or whatever. But as you can see here, Black Lives Matter, and y'all, I stress this stuff often because it is so important. You These subtle things that appear to be subtle, they are not so subtle, and I'm referring to these two different color lines, the red and the green lines under this. Y'all, these United States companies, these corporations that have all jumped on this bandwagon, this is not just Indeed.com, it is many other, probably most of the corporations in this country. There was a list released of all the corporations that are backing this entire madness here. And it makes you wonder why, but y'all, I'm just gonna say, out of both of these colors here on a subliminal level, they are telling you something, because a website like Indeed.com is not going to put up a banner like this and randomly choose two different colors like this for no reason, and there is significance in it. You could do your own research into colors. I'm not going to get into that, but I can tell you they don't do this stuff by chance. It's intentional, it's organized, and it is very effective. And again, there is a list out there of all the countless U.S. corporations that have jumped on this. Alright? And there's a reason. I mean, the country is in chaos, but in case you're not able to actually read this, I'm going to read this. Black Lives Matter. I would think all lives matter, but not in today's time. It goes on to say, Indeed stands in solidarity with the black community against historical and present systemic racism, violence, and hate. We will not be silent. Hashtag Black Lives Matter. There is a message here from the CEO. I have not clicked on this yet because I didn't want this to magically disappear before I made this video. But just from this opening statement from Indeed, we are being told that historical and present systemic racism and violence and hate against the black community. Maybe, just maybe, Indeed did not happen to see the many videos circulating around of elderly white men and women being brutally and viciously attacked by gangs of black mobs. Maybe they didn't see that. They chose not to see it. I can say without a doubt that racism works from both ends. As a demon white person, as we're known as, I can tell you over the years I have experienced countless episodes of racism from people of colors, and I'm not talking about Chinese Americans. So this works both ways. However, we are not allowed to talk about this. I have, over the years, left a few jobs. Left is a nice way of putting it. It's more like being driven out, where people of color were the majority and made it so uncomfortable for you that you actually just left the job. Besides the workplace, I have also experienced this in other places. And so I just want to say this racism, while there is no doubt that this occurs, it works both ways. And I'm guessing since Indeed was able to not only have this banner as a black background, which is significant, and this red line and this green line, there's a lot to that. You can look into these subliminals that they throw out. I'm guessing since they were still able to put this on the landing page of Indeed.com, that the mobs of rioters did not burn down their building. It's just a safe guess. Unlike many other countless buildings across the United States that has been burned down over the last couple of weeks. I want to click on this, a message from the CEO, and I just want to see maybe what it says. Excuse me. Indeed CEO, a message of acknowledgement and support to the black community. Well, you know what? This right here is self evident on the landing page of Indeed.com. I'll go on. Indeed sent the following email to its employees on 6/1/2020. Content warning. The following contents, comments about racism, murder, police brutality, and may be triggering. Y'all notice this word? Triggering. They do not put stuff out there for no reason. They know the millions of people that are probably hitting this website to try and find a job after the COVID lockdown of months, and now the cities have been destroyed, are going to be hitting this website. Pay attention to this word triggering. They know it is going to trigger, because I stopped, didn't even put in any keywords to look for a job, because I saw that big banner, and it stopped me in my tracks, and I was making a video. They know damn well that this is going to trigger people on both sides. If you happen to be a person of color, it is going to, first thing in the morning, put into your mind that you're oppressed. And it's the white people, and it's the police, and blah, blah, blah. We all get it. You have to be careful what you say on the internet. And I'm in no way advocating anything, but I would say that the degenerates that are out there burning down buildings may be burning down the wrong buildings. And I'll just say that because these fools, these clowns dressed up in these garments that they would never be caught out on the street in, and kneeling down on one knee, which I'm surprised. I'll just call her Nancy. I nicknamed her Gin and Tonic. I'm surprised she was able to kneel down on one knee, and I was even more surprised that she was able to get back up. Because, anyways, I'm not advocating any type of violence. I'm just saying, if you're going to be burning down buildings, maybe where you buy your food at is not the best building to burn down. Maybe you need to be burning down something else of people that do not give a damn about you, no matter if they're a Democrat or a Republican. And someday, if you live long enough, you're going to find out that what I'm saying is right. They do not care about you. And while they will go ahead and commence with this defunding of police across the country, you can make damn well sure that they will continue to have their armed bodyguards, while we, the peasants, are left with no type of security other than Americans are still armed. So, of course, you don't, I mean, this is the content warning. This hasn't even got into whatever this CEO is going to say, but they're telling you in the very first sentence, and maybe triggering. Why? Because they know it's going to be triggering. Let me continue. Like many of you, our family has spent much of the past week watching and absorbing news of the protests over the death of George Floyd. Well, this is an interesting word right here. Protest. Excuse me, protest? You've got to be kidding. You're telling me that burning down buildings And looting a Gucci store is protesting? No, it's rioting and looting. Thank you very much. The wounds are still fresh from the recent deaths of Ahmaud Arbery, Breonna Taylor, and the scary situations for Christian Cooper. This is all taking place in the middle of a terrible global pandemic, which the World Health Organization, of course, this came out on June 1st. And so now what they're saying right here is total bullshit because the World Health Organization has revised their commentary and their recommendations and all that because it was all horseshit to begin with. See, this is where they say, and they told us it's triggering. I get triggered just reading this. All right, let me let me just reread this. This is all taking place in the middle of a terrible global pandemic which has exposed the already significant inequality in the United States, US, with disproportionate impact on the black community. I would like for this CEO to produce the evidence for that statement. And these are just the most recent examples in a long line of systemic trauma and tragedy that is both mind numbing and incomprehensible. Well, you know what, Mr. CEO of Indeed, what is both mind numbing and incomprehensible for me is that you say the most oh, the disproportionate impact on the black community. Really? Really? That is mind numbing and incomprehensible. You know why? Have you not read the CDC reports? Hmm? Have you not read the CDC reports? Had you, you would find out that according to mainstream media, it is the elderly. While that may encompass people of colors, I doubt that it is disproportionate and and primarily focused on the black community. So I'm calling you out on that, Mr. CEO of Indeed.com. I'm heartbroken. I can't even begin to imagine the frustration and despair that the members of the black community must feel. I know there are many at Indeed and around the world who share that pain. Words matter. Now, y'all, this is what I started saying right in the beginning of this video. And this CEO, you can bet when he arrives at that building, if he actually goes into a building to work or when he leaves, you can bet he has armed bodyguards. Don't lose sight of that. But he or she is actually telling you, oh, this may perhaps be a male. His name is Chris Hyams. Interesting last name. So I'm assuming the name Chris is a male. He's telling you right here, words matter. They sure do. I saw it right on your landing page of Indeed.com. So you know it, we know it. But see, they put it in writing because they're reinforcing what you have already seen on the landing page of Indeed.com. Let me continue. Words matter, which is why I am sending this note to all of you today. But words alone are insufficient. What we do, how we show up, how we move forward, that is what is most important. Um, y'all, am I the only one that think, and I have not read this yet, am I the only one that thinks that there is a hidden message in here, but words alone are not, or, I'm sorry, but words alone are insufficient. What we do, how we show up, how we move forward, this is what is most important. What could Chris, the CEO, indeed mean by show up, how we show up? Is it at the next buildings they're going to burn to the ground? Or perhaps it's the national monuments that they're going to deface and destroy. Is that what the CEO is talking about? I'm just asking questions here. It just, I, wow. Inclusion and belonging is one of Indeed's 5 core values. We have been working for years to raise awareness, grow allyship, and create an open and supportive environment for all employees. Um, Mr. CEO and of Indeed, Chris, the CEO of Indeed, what your statement right there, you, as a matter of fact, just excluded essentially anyone that is not a person of color. That's my opinion, but those are your words. All right. There is something else here that I would really, in the sense, and I haven't read this yet, but I'm astute when it comes to the word game. Grow allyship. Hmm. Dude, you have a website that employers post their jobs because they need employees, and you make money from them. My question is, with whom are you growing allyship with? I would say that your memo to all of your employees on June 1st, 2020, that I'm reading now, has the answer. I'll continue. But the most important motivation is that our mission is to help people get jobs. Oh, really? Well, you know what, Chris? Let me just stop again, okay? Your banner on your landing page stopped me in the tracks, and I'm making a video about your website and have yet to look for a job. So I find it amusing that you would put in this statement, but the most important motivation is that our mission is to help people get jobs. Do you know what I call that? Bullshit. Number one, there ain't no jobs hardly out there. All you have to do is look at the recent post on your website compared to the way it was prior to COVID. Alright? Do you think for 1 minute I'm going to sit here and believe what you say in that sentence? But the most important motivation is that our mission is to help people get job? Bullshit. Chris Hyams. Chris Hyams. I'm calling you out on it. You are full of bullshit. I'll continue. Economic opportunity, access to jobs, is core to the fight against racism, injustice, and inequity. Well, you know what? I would have to say that there is some truth in that statement. Economic opportunity and access to job would definitely help people. However, it would have nothing to do with the core to the fight against racism, injustice, and inequity. If you want to get to the core of something, you need to get to the politicians, Mr. CEO Chris Hyams, okay? And stop with your bullshit, because this nauseating memo that your employees were forced to read is just, this is mind numbing, frankly. Unfreaking believable. The more Indeed represents the world around us, the better we are helping all people get jobs. Oh, really? I would think that your banner on the landing page of your website is not talking about all, which was so eloquently put in bold letters. I'm calling you out again. You're a bullshitter, okay? Right up, straight up front, you are full of bullshit. What you have done with that banner on the landing page of Indeed.com has done nothing but make people more decisive, created more division. This is what you accomplished. I'm going to continue on. This is an email. Probably will be hacked up like what's her face's, all her missing emails. This email is an acknowledgement of the suffering of many people are experiencing right now. But there is more work ahead. LaFawn Davis, our VP of Diversity, Inclusion, and Belonging, will be joining me and Dave on Wednesday for our weekly global Q&A. Next Monday, LaFawn will be my guest for the next episode of Here to Help. Wow, really? Alright, so, here to help. Whom are you here to help? Whom are you here to help? I would say it's not people that are actually looking for jobs. Chris Hyams, CEO of Indeed.com. Nauseating, and I haven't even had breakfast yet. Here to help. That is quote unquote, which will give us an opportunity to talk in more depth on issues facing the black community and the world. This conversation will be published externally along with the rest of our series. Well, you know what, Mr. CEO, I'm afraid to tell you this because obviously you're an expert at what you do with your propaganda. But I can tell you, more than just the black community in the United States are facing adversity now, especially after an extended forced lockdown. So I actually kind of find your statement there offensive. To the black community at Indeed. Well, I think he's talking more than just Indeed, because right here he says global. So you see, this is not necessarily the black community in the United States. This is a global agenda. Wow. This is a very good email. Haven't seen hardly any typos. He kind of tells a lot right here to the black community indeed. Chris, do you have any Asians or white people or Native American Indians working at Indeed or Hispanics? Hmm? Do you? How many of us or other people than the black community are killed every day? Hmm? See, I see what you're trying to do with this email to all your employees. This this statement, right, this first little part of this sentence to the black community at Indeed, those that phrase right there essentially excluded everyone that would be reading this email that doesn't have to be black in the community, your community that you're saying is inclusive. To me, that statement to the black community at ND is excluding everyone else. Thank you for showing up every day in the face of this unimaginable weight. Oh my God. I encourage you to take the time you need to engage with the community and focus on your mental health. Oh my gosh, wow. So check this out, y'all. I encourage you to take the time you need to engage with the community. Very subtle, but considering this came out on June 1st, 2020, and engage with the community, Chris Hyams, CEO of Indeed, what exactly are you saying there? What kind of cold message are you sending out? And as far as the mental health of these people that would be engaging with the community, well, that's self-evident too, isn't it? Over the last couple of weeks since you sent out your email on June 1st, 2020. Please use the resources Indeed makes available, like OpenPTO and Support Link. So, Chris Hyams right here is saying right here, please use your vacation time that you may have accrued with my company so that you can go out and engage with the community. Interesting. I want Indeed to be a place where everyone can bring whatever burden they carry and feel safe knowing that burden is acknowledged. To those outside of the black community, we all have an important role to play as allies and partners. I encourage you to educate yourself and find ways to take action where you are. If you don't know where to start, please join us in our upcoming dialogues. Chris Hyams, CEO of Indeed. Okay, so I'm just gonna end this last paragraph. He's speaking to those outside of the black community. Okay? And I have stressed this so many times in many of my videos that were not geared. My videos used to be geared in a different direction until all this chaos. But I have said this before. Pay attention to the wording. Words are power, and they know this. To me, as being the white devil that we are being accused of now for many decades, he's clearly saying right here to those outside of the black community, we all have an important role to play as allies and partners. I encourage you to educate yourself. Chris, Mr. CEO, so am I to deduce from your statement that those outside of the black community are undereducated? You just kind of said it in a roundabout way, kind of like a politician. Continuing on with that last sentence right there, and find ways to take action where you are. Well, Chris, haven't we seen quite a bit of that since June 1st, 2020, when you sent out this email to your employees? I think we have. Anyways, Chris Hyams, your email made me sick. Alright? I see through your bullshit. Sorry, I'm calling it like it is. I'm calling you out on it. You're a bullshitter. You're a race baiter. You're creating division. And since there are not very many jobs to begin with tens of millions of Americans out of work, I would suggest that some of this in here are blatant lies. While you may be trying to help some people find some jobs, there really aren't any, are they? Because many things haven't opened back up yet, and some that were are now burnt to the ground. I don't believe anything you said in your email to your employees at Indeed.com. While I can see, reading your word game, that you were sending out coded messages to your employees, and I can see that they picked up on it and followed orders, which is self-evident with what has occurred across the United States since June 1st, 2020, when you put out this email to your employees. As a matter of fact, considering the most current and recent updates to job listings on Indeed.com, I would say that your primary focus is not about so much getting people jobs, because there aren't that many. You have a different agenda. I've called you out on it, Chris Hyams, CEO of Indeed.com. It is what it is. You like it? Too bad. As far as I know, a white person can still at least make a comment. Actually, no, it's really not that way anymore, fortunately, because what are we, the demons? We're the root of all evil and all this stuff. I misspoke. Actually, white people cannot say anything anymore. because we are considered racist no matter what it is that we say that is against your agenda. And based on your last name, there's no doubt in my mind, with decades of research, exactly your agenda, Mr. CEO.